Hi, everyone. It's Marilyn Alori, and welcome to Who Can It Be Now? Today, I have an extremely special guest that you're really going to want to listen to this podcast. This is a story that is going to blow your minds because it blew my mind witnessing it as she was going through it. It's a story that I feel we can all relate to, a story where we're at a point in our paths where we don't know where we want to go and we want to give something up that we're doing, but we don't know where we're headed. And it's about faith and trust and taking that opportunity, taking that chance, and taking that risk on yourself, stepping out into the unknown, and then discovering something that you didn't even know you had, and you would not have discovered had you not let go of what was taking space up in your life. That's my opinion of it. Denise did not know I was going to say any of this. What I tend to do with my guests is, even though I know them and they're in my program, Next Level Living, I don't tell them what I'm going to ask them. I don't let them give me questions, because I really like to have a very informal conversation where we get to discover the person through the conversation. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Denise, and then she's going to tell you more about her. She is this incredible person that you are just going to fall in love with. She is a healer. She is a mom. She is a wife. She is an artist. And she's just doing extraordinary things with all the talent that she embodies. She's somebody who is, for me, she's very soft-spoken and very full of spirit and love and also humor. She's funny as heck. And when you're around her, you just naturally calm down, absolutely calm down. And we're going to talk about her mandalas that she's creating, which we'll link to her website, but it's Eden Souls Design, EdenSoulDesigns.com. EdenSoulsDesigns.com. We'll spell it in a minute. And you're really going to want to see these mandalas. I have a couple of them. Denise has gifted them to me when I lost my dog at different moments in my life. And they're absolutely beautiful. They're in my living room on an altar I have up there because I want to see them every day. And they're just so beautiful and stunning. Denise, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Marilyn, and thank you for that introduction. That I really appreciate it, and I appreciate it. It helped me to really reflect on how far I have come. So thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this because we haven't touched on your Reiki and your healing modalities and the things that you are trained in. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what you were doing when we met and
Mhm.
how you were like helping people as a healer.
Sure. I was certified, or am certified in Reiki up to master level teacher, and theta healing and heart path. And when I came into your programs, um, I was at a place where I was doing one-on-one healing in person. Mostly, I would do some remote sessions, but mostly in person. And I wanted to get to a place where I could lead groups. And my history is with anxiety. So I wanted to be able to help others with their anxiety. That's what led me down this healing path. And so I went into your programs knowing that I needed to become comfortable with being seen and heard,
Mm.
because someone with anxiety that's really out of their comfort zone. Um, so that was my initial impetus for signing up for. Well, I was in membership, and then I did SFA for this reason. And what happened was, in stepping into that for myself, I realized that I really didn't want to lead groups. Like, it showed me, I went on this whole journey, spent a lot of time, and then it really showed me like, this isn't it's not in my heart anymore. And so that's what led to me taking a step back for a while.
So I definitely want to talk about the anxiety and that you actually just wrote a story in a book where your mandala is the cover of, and I want to get into that. But there's something that you said that I want to go to first is you thought that you were supposed to teach groups or be part of groups and then you recognized that you weren't supposed to do that. Can you just clarify that a second of what that was for you?
Sure. In wanting to do this and then really pushing myself to step out there and to become comfortable with being seen and heard, um, you had actually offered me the opportunity to be a coach in SFA.
Oh, okay.
And I did that, and it was such a year of growth, and it was wonderful. I wouldn't trade that, but I think doing that, I realized that that's just not where I wanted to be at that time. I don't think that means forever, because I'm kind of back to wanting to maybe do some stuff for retreats with groups, but it just looks a lot different than I thought.
And let's then go to the anxiety. Let's go to, because we have to get all of your story in order to understand like how you navigate these different things. And I also feel like you live a very truthful path. Like it feels to me like you honor the feelings that come up, even if you struggle with them. Tell me if I'm wrong, because we always think we're supposed to do something because that's the way it's supposed to be done. And then we choose, you seem to honor yourself. And what is that like? Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, do you feel that that's true about you?
I would say it is now, but my story in the book that you mentioned is actually about how I would step into roles as a way of coping with my anxiety. So if I were a cheerleader, or I was the president in my sorority, or I was a chairperson at PTA, or if I stepped into these roles that were kind of defined, it's like being an actor, you're stepping into a role, that would kind of push me, I would kind of squash my anxiety. But what I found out is that when you're doing that and it's not authentic, it's like building this precarious house of cards. And what happened over a number of years, a couple of decades, it ended up in resulting in me having panic attacks.
Mm.
And so it was that led to me down the healing path. But for like 10 years, I went down more, anti-anxiety medication and cognitive therapy. And then 10 years, after starting that, was when I went down the more alternative healing path. And that became uncovering the limiting beliefs that I was living from. I was not living from a place of power. I was living from all these beliefs that had formed throughout my life that were really limiting me and causing me to fear everything around me, and even, I guess, myself, just not have that trust in myself.
It's amazing. And panic attacks are nothing, like I've had two in my life. And I mean, I have anxiety and I had anxiety, but panic attacks are really debilitating. They're very scary.
I started having them at a time where our 3 children were small, and Scott, my husband, was just starting their company, and I would have to call him from work, and because it's so debilitating. And it was really a matter of saving myself. I just had to get help.
How did you feel about yourself while you were going through that? Like, did you feel like you were doing something wrong or there was something wrong with you? What was the feelings towards yourself during that experience?
Yeah, I felt weak and like there was something wrong with me. I just wanted to hide away. I actually lately I've been uncovering this deeper level of of being able to look at how I've lived my life because of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned recently a lot of it was because I'm such a sensitive person.
Mm.
And I've known that, but after doing the work and uncovering these limiting beliefs and doing the trauma therapy, I'm really seeing just how sensitive I am. And I actually had a lot of grief. It was just yesterday, because I thought, gosh, I've lived my whole life thinking something was wrong with me. And I know there wasn't.
You're getting emotional now, and why is that?
Well, I'm about to turn 57, and you just think, gosh, just think of what I could have done had I figured this out, had I had the tools and the expertise and the help around me at the time. I mean, it just wasn't as known as it is today. So I know I can't stay in that place long, but it did come up a lot yesterday.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
think we both know it's good to come up because we need to heal it and move forward, right?
and just as to show my trust and how I'm always looking for signs or guidance. Today came across a quote that said, "You needed to learn it, so I took you through it to put you at your highest timeline." And it was from the universe. And it was exactly what I needed today to see, to remind me that all we go through is really for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because before we were talking, I was talking with somebody else from Next Level Living, doing a coaching session with her. And it just made me realize after, I was like, man, I need to do a reel that we constantly try to get everything right. We try to get it right. We try to get it right. There is no right.
Mhm.
Have to just let it go. And I feel like that's a cause of anxiety too, a lot of times with people too, don't you think?
Definitely. I definitely used to live my life from a place of needing to control. Feeling in control made me feel safe.
Hmm.
No, when you place your expectations of control on everything around you, that's just not setting yourself up for success. You can't dictate the way everything plays out.
Yeah. So I have a question, and I agree with that. Thank you for sharing that. Especially as a mom of three, like people are going to relate to this. And it's like, I'm sure that was, I know you're a great mom. I know how dedicated you are as a mom. I know how your kids and family come first. But
Mhm.
it must have been, I have a feeling, and tell me if I'm wrong, Denise, that I think that you were able to probably segment who you were. So when you were a mother, you were able to be there as a mother, but then there was probably this other side of you that was having this anxiety.
Mhm.
Like, is that what you were doing? Like segmenting part of yourself or?
Yeah, it was again another role I stepped into, and
Mhm.
that was motherhood or being a wife or being a volunteer. Be you know It was a role I stepped into, and even at first, being a healer, it took me a while to really believe in myself in that capacity until it became, it's just who I am. It's not a role I'm in anymore.
I love that. Which takes me to the question of you come from a family of healers, don't you?
I do.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I come from a line from Louisiana, and they're called traitors, and they're just I grew up with my grandmother, my mom, my aunt, just they call it a laying on of hands. And it
Mm.
was so similar to what I've learned through Reiki. Um, Anytime I had something wrong physically in my body, they put their hands on me. And when I was going through my Reiki certification, I actually visited my grandmother with my mom and my aunt, and my grandmother was speaking about one of my mom has had cancer a few times, and they weren't expecting her to live through the night one night. And she said, I was just sitting beside her. My grandmother was sitting beside her, and I just saw this gray energy, and I just put my hands on it, and I just brushed it off of her. And my mom ended up surviving the night. And
Mm.
she relayed this information to me, and I had just learned the same thing in my Reiki certification, but she didn't. It was just something that was handed down from generation to generation for her.
That's wild.
But they didn't really talk to us more about it until I started doing my certifications.
So they would just kind of do it, but not talk about like what they.
Right. Or maybe I didn't ask questions because I didn't know how much that could have helped me
Also,
in
go ahead.
ways, it's mental ways, not just if you have a neck ache or your knee hurts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I also think it's part of their language. So you don't explain like why you do certain things, why you cook a recipe a certain way. You just do it.
Yeah.
It seems like that. But here's my question is, so you have this in your blood, in your being, in your growing up, but for the first 10 years you went to medicine when you had anxiety. Do you know why you made that decision?
I know initially it was just a matter of saving myself. I
Mm.
literally, I had to do something. It was an emergency situation.
Mhm.
Um, I went on medication with I think it was my OBGYN prescribed something, and that sent me into a worse place. So it really, um, it was an emergency. And so I found a psychiatrist who really saved me.
Mm.
And I don't feel bad about that part of my life. So many people need to, my journey is for me. So I don't really want to make anyone feel like this is the right one for them. But if I had not done that, I would not have been able to be in a place to then help myself to a different level. It allowed me to just take the edge off of it. And then once I could live my life and just have a normal day-to-day life, that's when I became, as the kids got older, I had more time, and I was like, oh, I've always been interested in this. I think I'll try my certification now that I'm a little more free.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that you said that. This is what I love about people in next level living, that we really adopt this way of this is our way. It doesn't necessarily mean it's your way or this is my way. And I have nothing against prescriptions or psychiatrists or anything. It's whatever's best for the person.
My only guidance to anyone is to please seek the right doctor, because
Yes.
I learned the hard way that can really be detrimental. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. Okay, so 10 years in, and then your kids are a little bit older, so there's a little more space for you.
Mhm.
What was the moment where you like, or what was a turning moment there where you started discovering, wait a second, I have this inside of me. I am a healer. Where was that moment? Do you remember, or was it gradual?
It was gradual, but it was through my Reiki 1 certification. And what happened was I went through a whole, when you're doing your certifications of energy work, you're getting attuned,
Mm,
and you go through this whole other level of opening up. And so it was actually very disruptive for me for a while, and felt it threw me back into anxiety and in a different way. Because you're really facing the stuff you've kind of pushed down under.
yeah.
Once you work through it is when you feel more peace and more calm, and you see the benefits of it. But you definitely have to go through the turmoil a bit when you do any healing work with yourself.
How did your family react to you starting to take Reiki? Were they supportive of it? Were they like, what is this? Were you quiet about it? What was the deal?
I was not quiet with my family or my good friends. They were very supportive, and
Mm.
I've had nothing but support. It definitely, at the beginning, it was something, people I'd see in the community didn't understand it. And I just kind of hid it, I
Yeah.
guess, until later on. But now I'm very comfortable sharing it.
Yeah, we all go through that.
Yeah, it was just like you're a little bit naked or something, you're exposing a different part of yourself that people don't understand, don't know yet, or don't understand.
Yeah, I talk about this a lot. I don't remember who I was saying it to, but even on the tennis court, if people ask me what I do, I don't really share it.
Yeah.
I know what it was. I think, there was a new coach and he Googled me and he figured out what I did because he was trying to find my USTA rating and all these things. Um, and when he said, like, he was talking to me about mindset and he's like, I know what you do. And I was like, did you look me up? And he was like, yeah. And then he was like, tell me about your podcast. And I
Mhm.
try to keep that stuff very private.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for it. And it's not that I'm embarrassed by what I do. I just wear a different hat on the tennis court. And then a lot of times when people find out what you do, they have a real interest in it, or they're like, they'll be like, and I just want to play tennis. So,
Yeah. I understand that.
so you also did Heart Path. What is Heart Path? Or was that the name of your business?
No, that was Heart Path is another healing modality developed by a mentor of mine, Robin Lisney. And in that, I take the person that I'm working with into a guided imagery. It's like, I would compare it almost to hypnotherapy.
Mm,
They're closing their eyes. I'm guiding them to go into their heart space and work with their inner family, so to speak. It's their inner child, their masculine, their feminine, um, their spirit animals, and their higher self. And in doing that, there's always an aspect of you that shows up that is ready to be healed. And that's where you do the limiting belief work. And what I love about Heart Path is that I'm their guide, but they're really the ones doing the work internally and energetically. And I'm serving as a guide. I'm not doing it for them. I Theta healing, the practitioner did a little more for the person, and that just didn't resonate for me as much as someone who had to do my own work.
Did you study theta healing?
I did. But then and I would use aspects of it. I mean, it was great. It really helped me as well, going to a theta healers. But as you know, you do these different courses, certifications, learning, and you create your own style. So that's what I
Yeah.
did myself.
It's one of my biggest things, as you know, in Next Level Living, as I'm bringing it in, is your own unique brand, because it's your life experience as a mom, going through anxiety, having healers in your past. Nobody
Right.
has all this history and all these experiences that you have. And that's why what you're creating now is so unique onto you. So then you opened up a business after that? Like how long after you were on this own path that you were healing yourself, then you started studying, did you decide, okay, I want to do this for others?
I opened my business 2 years after I began my certifications.
And what made you do that? Like what was it, what was calling you to do that?
I saw what a life changer it was for me. And I was like, I've got to share this with others. And I was also at a time where our daughter had graduated from high school and the boys were a little older. I had more space in my life to do my own thing. Um, Scott retired early, so I had the space and the desire to help others.
And how did you like doing that in the beginning? Because that was in person, right?
Mhm. I
Yeah.
did. I loved it. And I still will do sessions for people, I had with friends or people in crisis. It depends. We're traveling so much, so it's hard to do the in-person. Um, but what happened was I started um, working I wanted something a little more creative. So I started doing little, I would do writing with their session or little doodles as a part of their session. So they're receiving Reiki and heart path, but I do like a page that I was able to give to them with words that came up during their session or questions to ponder and ask themselves, or maybe symbols that came up.
Love that. Okay. And then when or what was the moment for you? I think this is such an important thing. So I just want to preface this for a second, and then I want to hear your experience. I've been in business like almost 19 years, I think it is now, right? And there's always a time, and I'm going through it again right now. There's a new iteration. I went through a new iteration 2 years ago
Yeah.
where we decide we grow out of something or or a life like I'll speak for myself, my age, what I want calls me in a new direction. I love what I'm doing. I love what I'm teaching. I love what's happening, but I'm being called then to shift it to something else.
Right.
And I'm honoring that. And it's a scary place to be sometimes. So
Mhm.
I want you to talk a bit about like what happened to you. Like you had this business, you love healing people, but something shifted inside of you where you were feeling like you needed to do something else. Or tell me the story.
Um, I think it had a lot to do with the timing. We were going to be empty nesters soon. And I knew that once that happened, we were going to start traveling. And it just didn't feel right to continue to try to do an in-person business like that. And I realized also that I love the creativity part. So it didn't, I got back to my creative side. And so I was like, it's just not feeding my heart in the way it was before. Um, Although, I bring everything that I've learned into what I do now,
Yeah.
it just looks very different.
But here's the thing, and I love that. So here's the thing, though, Denise. There's a moment because I remember these moments when we were having these conversations. I think you were in SFA when it was happening, um, where you have a website, you have an office, and you have to decide if you're closing it down. Like that's a hard moment, isn't it?
It was because, first of all, my business wasn't even that old yet. So there's this fear, there's this belief of, oh my gosh, I've failed. And I'm just now getting comfortable with telling people what I'm doing and I'm closing it. It was a very humbling moment. And I knew that I couldn't continue because of what other people may think.
Mm, that's great.
So it was, for a while, it took me a long time. I just now let go of my old website.
Yeah, but it wasn't
Taken me-
operational. You just let go of.
No, it was there, and I didn't promote it. But when I just built my new website, I had a day where I went into panic because it was really hard to learn. It's a lot harder to learn things in your 50s, new things like that, technical stuff. But I had a moment where I almost kept referred people to that instead of building a new one. And I was like, nope, I can't go back.
Mm,
I just cannot go back there. And I was building the site and I had deleted it as far as I could tell, the old one, but pieces of it kept popping into my new one. And I know spirit made me completely delete, like I had to really, it's not there anymore. It wasn't like it was just saved in a folder at first, but pieces would pop in. And it was just a really big lesson on surrendering and just letting it go completely. But it took me a couple of years.
yeah, I understand that. It's a footprint on there.
Yeah,
So, okay, so you decide to close down your business, decide to let go of your office, but you don't know what you're going into. You just know that you love creativity. Tell
yeah.
us now how you discovered, like, guys, you have to go to her website and look at her mandalas. And I'm going to spell her website. It's EdenSoulDesigns.com. So it's EdenSoulDesigns.com. And she also has an Instagram page. And whenever anybody sees these mandalas, I can't even believe the one on your homepage is like, they're so mesmerizing, incredible, heart opening. There's so much in them. They're alive. They have a lot of like they're not a still experience. It's a multi-dimensional experience that I feel they're going to grow with you when you do them. So tell everybody about them and how they came about, and we can talk a little bit more about your work.
Sure. Well, what happened was I went on a retreat to Shasta by, Jan and Jennifer, had been in SFA with me. And one night, Jennifer said, I want you to do readings for everyone here tomorrow.
Mm.
And it terrified me. But that night, I received guidance to do more of a pictorial reading, not a verbal one like people are the traditional reading. So the next day or through the week that we were there, I called them doodles, these pages, and just allowed some symbols to come through and words and, questions. And then I met with each person and gave them their reading that way. And so I kept doing that on my own. I had a really pretty journal at home and I would just kind of do my own readings each morning or each night and see what wanted to come through. Um, but they were literally black and white doodles, like they were nothing fancy at all, but they always held deep meaning for people and myself. And it wasn't until my mom passed
Mm.
that it opened up into the mandalas. I actually had bought a book on how to draw mandalas because I loved coloring them, never opened it, and it just started coming through me as I was using my creativity to help me process the grief.
Mm.
It became a way that my mom would come through to me, just like automatic writing, but it was drawing and
Yeah, it's
creativity.
automatic art. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I call it energetic art. And it became my way of communicating with her and comforting me when I was really there was a lot of loss that year and she was the last one. And it's just it was like a coping technique for me, but then it just emerged and it's something I never could have imagined.
Do you remember the first one that you drew that you stood back from and went, oh, this is something different?
I did. Because there was some communicating with her, and I draw like little bitty things and then it'd have a message from her. And then one day it just looked like a mandala. And I was like, and then I got excited and I would just want to do it more. I started realizing, it's just like when I do Reiki, I realized the energy was coming through me and out my hands, but it was in the form of art instead of hands-on healing.
So then how did you grow it from there? Like it kind of grew really fast.
It
But
did.
how did like what was the next step after that? I mean, it's so beautiful that it helped you to grieve.
Mm.
But when did you start showing it to people? When did you start doing it for others? Like how did that come about?
It came about kind of like when I was doing Reiki, I would just, I started it for myself, and then I would do it for people, friends.
Mhm.
And then we would have um, next level living, classes, and something would come through, or I'd be on the hot seat and, do something in order to work through what I was working through. And I began posting them on the next level living group. So I had a safe space to really put it out there with family and friends and everyone in your group. Um, and that's when I realized what it was and what it could do to help people.
Yeah.
I just thought of it as my art and creativity. I really never planned on making a business out of it.
When did that moment happen? And I'm so glad I didn't know this part of the story. Well, I didn't know about the grief part either. So thank you. 'Cause that's why I love not knowing a lot and asking, like not knowing the questions I'm going to ask.
Uh,
But also I didn't realize that it was kind of encouraged in next level living, I should say, or just you felt safe enough to put it out there. So I'm so happy to hear that.
yeah. Um,
Um,
you know, it just, I think there's a moment in time especially with healing work, where you're doing it because you love to heal people or help people, and you're doing it for friends, and then there's a moment in time where you're like, oh, it kind of clicks that I can do this on a bigger scale. But they take me an hour and a half or two. So I realized if I wanted to take it to scale, then I would need to create a business to do that.
because you started getting business opportunities though. What was it the logo that somebody asked you to do? What was the first thing that somebody paid you to do?
Um, it was within two people in NLL. We traded at that time. We did trades, and this again the same way I started with Reiki. I do trades with people,
Right.
and then um, I had, and then from there I had a couple to be able to show other people who knew my work and really enjoyed it. And I said, oh, I can do this for your business too.
That's great. And
So
then
then I began to get paid for it.
that's great. And then because I know you've done it for a retreat, you did it. What are the different? Oh, so right now, Denise is on the cover of Courageous Changemakers is the book, right?
Mhm.
And that is an a compilation. So there's a few authors from Next Level Living in that book. And the main person who's doing it is in Next Level Living. And the mandala on that book is amazing, Denise.
Thank you.
So at first I was like celebrating Donna and all of you as authors in the book. It's not everybody in Next Level Living. There's like 3 or 4. And then then I started focusing on the mandala. I was like, wait a second, Denise did that for mandala too. I'm like, what the heck?
Donna, I had done a business mandala for her. And so when she and Sue began doing the group, um, she invited me or gave me the opportunity to do it when they were trying to figure out what to put on the cover. And she just really believed in me before I quite did yet.
I love that. That's great. And then you've also, so where are you moving the business now? What is it that you would love to do? I want to just say something. I'm looking at Courageous Changemakers and that's doing really well too. So I'm like, woohoo. So happy for all of you guys.
Thank you.
One of the things we didn't touch on that's important is Denise you said it a bit, that you became an empty nester, you and your husband wanted to travel. And part of the reason too, you were questioning an in-person business was because you wanted the freedom to be able to do healing work, but not have to be tied to a location,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
So
So,
go ahead.
I knew, in the journey of discovering ourselves, we learn also about the business we want to create for ourselves. And I knew that it needed to be flexible and travel with me. I knew I wanted it to be creative and fun. And I knew I wanted it to be a way that I can help others in their healing journey and learning more about themselves. And
How
so
Go ahead.
this fits into all of those pockets for me.
But I feel like you really surrendered to, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm surrendering to this is what I want. Is that true?
It is. I took a step back. That was, when I think it was like in May, and then I just completely stopped working and was not taking new clients and took time with my family. And then experienced my grandmother, who was the one I was speaking of earlier, passed, and my mom. And um, so it wasn't until, gosh, I don't know, 7 months or 8 months later that this kind of happened, or that it became more of a business idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea if I was even going to do something. Scott and I had a retirement plan, and I wanted to kind of honor that and not start something big at the time and just enjoy life. So
And now what do you what are you doing with it?
I I'm doing everything that we had planned on doing together when we became empty nesters, and the travel, being able to go visit our kids, and we live part-time in Nicaragua as well. But I'm able to still, to post my art on Instagram is really fun for me. And I'm still just in the flow of the fun of it. And then if I get new clients, that's like a bonus for me. I'm fortunate that I don't have to, we're already retired, so I don't need, it's not stressful for me to try to get work. And so I'm really in the ebb and flow of things with this business.
Well, I have to say something about that though, too. I feel like all businesses need some type of approach like that,
Mhm.
where it's for the fun of it, it's the love of it. Every business that I've had, I didn't know it was a business. It was a hobby that I went towards. I wanted
Yeah.
to learn something. I started studying, and then it became a full-blown business.
Yeah.
So,
Because if I'm traveling and enjoying my time with my husband, but I need to set aside time to work, so to speak, I want it to be something I love.
yeah.
And so now, like, I love creating the new mandalas and posting on Instagram. I'm still learning a lot about social media.
Yeah.
um, so I'm learning a lot. My business is really in the beginning stages, but I'm really enjoying it because it's fun for me and it's fulfilling, and it's just, you've really taught us about um, learning our instrument, and mine are my hands, and I've learned to use them in a different way.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, and I want to bring attention to something you said that I didn't even think of, is the retirement piece. So I've recently have shifted my niche, my audience, because they shifted. All of you started coming to me. You weren't retired when you came to me, but um, most everyone in my program is looking to retire or have retired, and they're looking to do their next chapter, their mission work, the thing that really touches them and they love to do, and it's a joy, and they want to give back to others for the same reason you doing
Yeah.
it. So I love that you said that. I think it's important. It's important that you do what you love to do. Now let's talk about this one piece that I think is I'm going to pull up your Instagram as I do this. How did it feel to be putting out the first ones on Instagram?
You know, t- um, I remember posting it. I was here in Nicaragua and it felt scary. But what I did was I chose Instagram, and I chose to do a business page and instead of Facebook personal. Like I
Mhm.
remember one time I accidentally posted it to Facebook too, and that was more scary to me. But I was like, this is a business I'm creating. And I invited people that I knew who already knew about my art. And so I'm seeing it grow from there. But it was scary. But then I realized how fun it was. I had committed to myself to do 3 posts a week for a certain amount of time. And it became really fun, and it became a ritual for me.
Love that. Love that. And I think it's important to say, I'm looking at your page. It's beautiful. And we will be bringing more on how to grow these things in Next Level Living. We're going to be talking more about social media and stuff and teaching you guys how to do a bit about it. And also I can send you to a resource of where to grow that. But there's so much truth to posting it on our personal page. And if it's not comfortable, it was very hard for me. And I only started doing it when my book came out 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And now I'm like all over my personal page. I don't care any longer. And part of that is because I was one of those people who didn't need to shout from the rooftops what I did. I had a people that bought from me. I had an audience. I had clientele. It was on my professional page, and my personal page was MTV and, all my people I grew up with. So it was like scary at first. I was to put it out there. So I get it.
Yeah, we just had the book launch not too long ago, and that was terrifying for me because I knew I had to put it on my personal page. And there's so many people I was connected to from my past who knew nothing about my anxiety,
Hmm.
the art I'm doing now. That was really scary. And it took me, that day, I was nervous the night before, and then that day um, was big for me to do that.
How
There's
did you
just so
get
many
through it?
different levels of putting yourself out there.
There are, and I feel like a lot of people, they say to me, their problem is like, I need to get my course out there. I need to put my course together. And I'm like, no, what you need to do is get comfortable being seen. You need to build an audience. Like somebody we both know who is in membership, she does beautiful art portraits. And she's like, I want to put a course together. I'm like, you need to build a,
Mhm.
people need to know who you are so that when you have the course, they buy it. Like
Right.
people, and really, I feel like a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs struggle with being seen more so than the how to put a course together or how to run a business. Do you agree
Yeah,
with that?
I do. I think that's kind of what we hide behind because that's easy.
Yeah.
But what happened the day of the book launch is I shifted from this place of um, anxiety, a little fear, to this place of peace because I realized that when we step through the fear and allow ourselves to be seen and heard, we are seen and heard in a way that you could never imagine. It was like I just I had this day where I was like, I'm finally being seen for my true self, flaws and all, the anxiety, um, me doing energetic art. A lot of people are probably like, what is that exactly? But it brought me this such a sense of peace. And I just encourage anyone to really step through that fear because that's the way you are truly seen.
Well, and you said something to me because now remembering we did have this conversation. I have so many conversations. And you said something, and tell me if I'm wrong, because maybe I'm remembering it wrong. You said you're finally seeing yourself too, or you're seeing yourself at a whole other level, or something like that. Is that
I
true?
am. It is. I was when we push through the fear of things, which is very different from doing things we just don't really like to do, that feel
Yes.
out of alignment with us. When we push through that fear, it just really it's like uncovers our essence. And so I feel like I'm really seeing myself for the first time too and trusting. I mean, this journey has been all about trusting, but now I'm understanding it at a deeper level and seeing it and just having more faith in myself and confidence, because I'm just I'm just out there. I'm not in a role anymore. I'm
Yeah.
really being myself and putting it out there and knowing that it can help others. We hide ourselves and we don't realize how much we could really be helping others by showing ourselves.
Yeah, it's one of my biggest things for all anybody who works with me is you're doing a disservice to so many people who could benefit
Yeah.
from what you have to share and what you have to give. And something you started out the interview with, which I think is important, you said, I'm turning 57. I'm 58. I'll be turning 59 at the end of this year. And I've had this conversation with a couple other people from Next Level Living with Donna and Monique. There's something about this age, and I think whether you're listening to this in your 20, 30, 40, take advice right now from us. What it's like to finally, I'll speak for myself, to see myself the way that I'm seeing and accept myself and embrace myself in this whole new way. It's fascinating.
It is. I just can't believe it because I've been on such a journey already that
Mhm.
I just had no idea it was going to be like this. And, you go through this. I guess what I was experiencing yesterday is you just really see the magnitude of yourself and what you can do and what you can create. And that can feel kind of scary in itself, but it also just feels beautiful and empowering. And you just want to share it with others.
It's so exciting. It's
Yeah.
like when we did the productivity call yesterday, I share with you guys that I have this clarity that I've been praying for something for so long and constantly distracting myself with something else that I thought I was supposed to be doing. And then the clarity and the moment all came together and the signs and spirit answered. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's exactly this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is why they keep pointing me in this direction. And it's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. It's such a clarifying moment. And that's what happened when I realized I was really being truly seen. It was just this moment like, that's what I came here for.
I love that. And there's more that's going to be
There's
discovered.
more. Yes.
So tell everybody like where to find you and how you would like them to reach out to you. Like what capacity, what can people get from your mandalas? Like what are you hoping to help people with, or they can hire you for? They may be like, mandala, I don't know. And I can tell you that her mandalas are so healing. They're inspiring. It's not just healing, Denise. There's more to it. I love the way you described the heart path work you did, which I was not familiar with. I know you told me about it before, but there's so much in those mandalas that take you on a journey. I feel like, and they're with you.
Yeah.
So share with people like how you would like them to contact you, what you can do, or what you're looking to do, and just so people know how they can hire you.
Sure. Well, my website is edensouldesigns.com, and that will have my email on it, which is edenisesutter@gmail.com. You can reach out to me via email, or you can follow me on Instagram at Eden Soul Designs. And for anyone who reaches out, I've created a mandala that you can print and color in. It's to find your way into flow. So I think it offers a little taste of how coloring and mandalas work. They bring you out of your mind and bring you into this state of inner peace and calm. And usually something comes up from it, maybe some messages, as you're doing it, some messages, some words, some questions to really ask yourself. And you can start there. I really just all my healing work has really been about helping people to come back to themselves. And I think that's what these mandalas do as well. It's just a different form of energy therapy to me. It's all energy, and the colors speak to you, the symbols. You can put them in your body, you can just put them on your wall. There's so many different ways to use them. Um, and that's my next project, actually, is doing an oracle deck for people to work with.
And so if somebody wants a mandala from you, they can email you and you could probably explain a little bit more. Like if they're like, grieving the loss of my father or something, they would email you and explain to you what was going on, or to get into contact with you first. Don't send a 5-page email, guys. Um, and then you would be able to create a mandala for them to help them on their healing journey.
Yes, they can
Okay.
reach out to me via email at this
Okay.
time.
And
And
then
then
you
I
have,
can
go ahead.
communicate more. I can communicate more about my offerings. I don't have the offerings posted on my site yet, but
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk to people about that.
Great. That's what I noticed too. You didn't have the offerings yet on the site, but you also said you had like a free little gift. So if they email you, that's something that you can send them that they can do, but they're giving their email address for that. Is that correct?
Right. Yes, or following me on Instagram as well and message me through Instagram.
Yay, great. Is there anything else you would like? Thank you so much, Denise. That was great. Is
Yeah,
there
thank
anything
you.
else that you would like us to talk about, or anything else you'd like to say to people, or anything you'd like to share?
I just really, I've spoken about it already, but just really encourage everyone to step through um, what they're most afraid of and to begin living their life from that place, not from the limiting beliefs and the stories, and to have a lot of grace with yourself as you go along. To remember we are human, we're going to go through a lot of stuff, but really in stepping into through the fear is where we step into our empowerment, and it's worth the journey.
Yeah, it's worth the journey. I agree.
There may be days where you don't think so, but it's always worth the journey. It's always for us.
I think it's such an important conversation to continue to have, because there was the belief out there that once you hit a spiritual enlightenment, you wouldn't have any more trouble. And it's not true. It's
Oh
just,
gosh, no.
but you have the tools and
It,
techniques. What'd you say?
I, I said, gosh, no, my life is far from perfect. You know, I have days where I feel like I hit bottom again, but I just have better tools and know how to move through it more quickly. And I have a stronger faith in myself without being run by the limiting beliefs that I used to hold.
Yeah, and also there's those moments in those times where you recognize too that there's something beautiful being born from it, or something being taught that's helping. So it's great.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Denise. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Yeah. So
Thanks for
remember,
having
everyone,
me.
what?
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah, no, I tell you guys, they don't know what I'm going to ask. So you did good. You did
Yep.
great. So remember to rate, review, subscribe. Definitely share this podcast, especially if you feel that somebody could really benefit from Denise, or maybe it's a gift you want to get someone. Go check out her work on EdenSoulDesigns.com, and also check her out on Instagram. And again, it'll be in the show notes, but I know a lot of you drive, and while you're listening to the podcast, so you don't always look at the show notes. And if you're interested in working more with me, I would go to marilynaloria.com/next, NEXT. And I would look at the video on that page. It's an overview. It really explains the program. The page itself needs to be rewritten, being honest, because it shifted and grew and changed so much, the program. So I would go there and watch the video. That'll really explain to you what we do. We really do help people to come out of the dark and into the light, own who they are and be who they are in fullness. And we're also bringing a lot more business components into the program to help people to grow their business, because I really enjoy business. And as always, who can it be now? It's you. It's always you. Thank you very much. Bye.